In this video, I want to talk about the lipstick chart in Power BI. And if you wonder, like, the lipstick chart, I've never heard about that core visual. Well, it is kind of not a core visual, but you can create a lipstick chart using core visuals, like the column chart or the bar chart. And I want to show you how you can do that. And I came up with this because I did a workshop last week, and one of the participants of my workshop was actually talking about this. And why was he talking about this? I was talking about target visualization. So I was actually telling the group like how you could visualize targets like below and above target, one of the visuals I use and show a lot, but also how you can move columns over each other with overlap. I created some other videos about that. I will put them in the description and also in a link here somewhere. So when I was talking about that, he was like, yeah, a lipstick chart is very easy to do. You can just do it with a column or a bar chart using error bars. And after he told me that, I was like, I want to try that. So first of all, why is it a lipstick chart? Well, a lipstick chart, if you look at this, like at this picture, you can probably see kind of the reference to a lipstick. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, well, let's say the pink in my picture would be the lipstick and the dark brown or gray would be the casing of the lipstick. And in this visual, the pink, so what's on the inside is the target and the outside is like the actual value. That's a lot of explaining what it is, but if you've never heard about it, I hope my explanation made any sense here. So now you may wonder, how do we create that in Power BI? Let's go into Power BI, and here you see I already created that. I created one with a bar chart and one with a column chart, and in the column chart you can see I also put in some labels like what the value is above or below the target. And these labels are actually also one of the limitations. I will talk about that later in this video. Let's first start with how you can create this, because you can see it's fully functional. And if I click on this, you can see this is a clustered bar chart and this is a clustered column chart. So it's really core visual here. Let's click on this one. I make a quick copy of this one. I move it here and I make sure that the background is not transparent. And now I remove all the stuff I put in there. So now it's just a clustered bar chart. On the y-axis, I put the category, and on the x-axis, the sales. Now, what we want to do is we want to get that target, that lipstick effect in there. But if I put my target in there on the x-axis, it will be just next to it. And if I go to layout and I say overlap, I can put them on each other, and I could even flip the overlap, but I can't make one bigger or smaller. So what I need to do is I remove the sales target here again. What I do is I go to error bars, which is just outside of the screen that I'm recording. It's below reference lines here. And if I open that, you can see it here. First thing you need to do is you need to enable them. That's very tricky because you can put stuff in there. So I could put my target in there and I could put 0 in the lower bound, and you see nothing happens. It only happens once you click on it. Very tricky. So make sure you enable it. And now I tell you again what I'm doing. The lower bound would be 0 because we want our target always to start at 0. And how do I do that? I created a column. I know boo columns, but in this case, I wanted to create that. And I say 0 is 0. Very simple. If we say 0 is 0, it means it starts at 0. So I put that in the lower bound here. And the upper bound is actually my sales target. In this case, it's the sales of last year. I can show you it's a calculation of sales last year. Put in anything that makes sense for you. So I put that in the upper bound. And now you see we get these lines. They are not super pretty, but they already look like the sizing is correct. So what are we doing? We go to error bars and then bars. And now I make this pink and I give it the width 10. And I say I want the border. I can only go into the 2 here. I also make that pink. So that already looks kind of like what we want. I turn the markers off, the tooltip here. And now I go back to my bar. Lots of scrolling here to the normal bars. And I say I want the space between series to be a little bit bigger because I really want that lipstick effect here. So now you see that, and I make it like dark brown, and you see it already kind of is the same. What's different here is in the other visual I don't have the x-axis values or title, and I have a title and a subtitle. You see I have a title which category reached the yearly target, and it's a dynamic subtitle of which categories reach the target. Why am I using a dynamic subtitle in that visual? Well, maybe that lipstick chart is very difficult for you to read, especially if you look at it for the first time. And then I always think, even if someone doesn't understand the visual, I want to make sure that they can read somewhere what the answer is. I don't have a video about that at the moment. I will make sure in the future I will make one about dynamic titles and subtitles, because I use it in almost all of my visuals, in all my trainings. So that's how we create the bar chart here, the clustered bar chart, but then the lipstick version of it. Now, if we want the column chart, I could basically just click on clustered column chart, because PowerBI is very smart and just keeps all the settings that we have and turns it the other way around. And if we look at that, we can also see it looks kind of the same. I didn't have a title on my x-axis here, and my columns, I made them a little less wide. And now you see here in my column chart, I also have titles. So these titles are actually my data labels. If I put them on, you see this here, data labels. Now the data labels you see in the examples are different. Why? I said data labels, and here we have value. And what I put in here is the sales difference. I made a DAX measure, you can see it here, where I just say what's the actual difference, and then I did some formatting, so it shows as plus something minus something. So instead of using the value that PowerBI proposes, and PowerBI wanted to use sales this year because that's also in the y-axis, I say I want a different value. You can put in everything you want. If you click the old one away, you will see it just gives you the standard. You can put in something else here. I told you there's a limitation here, and I think it's best visible in my bar chart. If I say data labels, even if I place them inside base, you can kind of read them. Outside end, it's not perfect. Let's say it like that. And also because our target is not really a target, it's an error bar where we put in the value of the target, we can't put it in the legend. So if I want to click on legend, and I want to turn that on, it's impossible, which makes it very tricky, because this could be very hard to understand. What am I looking at? What's the dark brown color bar and what's the pink? And because we can't activate that legend, we would need to do a workaround where we put in some pictures or some shapes and some text. So that's really a downside. So I would only use a lipstick visual when I really know my end user gets why we are using it, they requested it, and then I would make sure that I put part of the answer already, like I did in my examples, in the subtitle. So even if someone doesn't understand the visual, they get the meaning. But then again, if no one understands the visual because it's too difficult to understand, use something else. But I think this is also a nice way to show how we could visualize a target in a different way than what we're used to. So I hope this helped. I'm very happy that that participant of my training actually said, hey, you can just do this with error bars, because that led to me trying it. So if you have any other suggestions of visuals that I can create that are not part of the core visuals, but that we can create with the core visuals, let me know in the comments. And also, if you have any questions, let me know.